folks, I'm best-selling author of The Power Zero, David McKnight. In today's video, you'll see part 4 of my interview with financial advisor Chris Martens, in which we discuss the best way to pay for long-term care without the heartburn.
I just want to kind of, drill down a little bit on the importance of factoring it into any planning strategy, right? And utilizing either, cash value life insurance, permanent life insurance, or if there's a health condition, maybe even using an annuity to tack on long-term care. Talk to us a little bit about that, and what are some thoughts or what are some things that you might propose to clients and prospective clients?
So when I'm sitting across the table from a client, I always have the following discussion. I'll say, Mr. Jones, I always talk to the husband first. I say, Mr. Jones, you know I love you, right? He goes, yeah, Dave, I know you love me. I'd say, I do love you, but you're better off dying than needing long-term care. And he'll look a little sort of taken back. And I'll say, why is that? I'll say, well, at least if you die, then Mrs. Jones here would be a beneficiary on all of your investment accounts. And while we would miss you terribly, life for her is going to go along relatively unchanged. I say, however, if you didn't die and you ended up needing long-term care, now all of a sudden, what does she get to keep? She gets to keep one house, one car, a minimum monthly maintenance needs allowance of about $2,500 a month, about $130,000 of cash, depending on the state. So what was shaping up to be a perfectly rosy retirement for Mrs. Jones here turns into basic, bare bones subsistence type living. Of course, the converse holds true if Mrs. Jones should end up needing long-term care. So it's a big deal. I mean, you could be perfectly set up for a great retirement, and then somebody ends up almost dying and needing long-term care for the next 10 years. So you burn through a lifetime worth of savings in just a few short years. And so people aren't opposed to having long-term care insurance. They're just opposed to paying for it. I tell people all the time, hey, if you can have a cash value life insurance that allows you to spend the death benefit in advance of your death for the purpose of paying for long-term care, then you don't have quite that same sting. Why? Because if you die peacefully in your sleep 30 years from now, never having needed long-term care, someone's still getting a death benefit, probably your kids or your grandkids. I've realized, I used to say just kids, but now I realize most people don't want to give money necessarily just to their kids. They want to give it to their grandkids. So, so there isn't that sensation of having paid for something you hope you never have to use. I mean, traditional long-term care insurance gives people a lot of heartburn. It's expensive, it's hard to qualify for, and it's use it or lose it. And right. Cash value life insurance seems to resolve all of those because your cash value grows. You can access that cash value in the meantime. And if you do end up needing long-term care, you can spend the death benefit down while you're alive. And if you die peaceful in your sleep, never having needed long-term care, someone's going to still get that death benefit.
Yeah. And I mean, if you just look at the numbers, you look at the data, and really the question, the need is there. I don't think anybody disagrees. I think the question is really, how do you want to finance it? How do you want to fund the eventual care? Right. And depending on if it's the man or woman, right, the tenure of the care, the longevity, right. It could be somewhere between 3 to 5 years for males and 5, I think, to 7 or 8 for females, right? And those 5, they're very expensive. And I don't think a lot of people have that factored into their planning. I think there's a lot of landmines. I'm of the opinion that something is better than nothing, right? If a standalone is all you can afford, standalone's better than nothing. And this also kind of takes me back, and I just want to be very clear. The need is more important than anything else, but I do want to highlight when we talk about, I mentioned the state income taxes earlier, and you talk about Medicare. This is having a significant effect on state budgets. And what we're starting to see, and this kind of deviates a little bit from what we're talking about, but you're starting to see legislation or talks of legislation, proposed legislation in various states, right? We saw it in the state of Washington, where they created a publicly funded or a payroll tax funded public long-term care program, the Washington Cares program, right? They rushed it a little bit. It's not without its faults. It's getting tweaked. But what we're seeing is other states starting to follow suit because they understand, they've done the math. It's going to be problematic. So another reason why I would recommend to people start addressing this now, because for those high income earners, right, if we use the state of Washington as a kind of a benchmark where they said, if you don't have a long-term care policy, you're going to have a 58 basis point payroll tax with no cap. High income earners, that's pretty significant in the state of Washington. Now, I don't have kind of the updated map here on my screen, but I think we've seen now the state of California has gone to a task force and they have nothing imminent. Just want to be clear, but they're looking at legislation. You're seeing it in New York. You're seeing it in Connecticut, North Carolina, Maryland, Minnesota. All over are now starting to look at implementing publicly funded programs via payroll taxes. So it's just another reason that people need to be proactive, not to kind of steal away from what we talked about, but this is now starting to affect not just the federal, but the state budgets also.
Yeah, no doubt. And that's been in the works for a while. And I think that these states are waking up to this idea that there's this titanic expense that's looming off in the horizon. And they're actually doing what the federal government should be doing. And the reason they're doing it is because states don't have the ability to print money like the federal government does. So they don't have any recourse if they don't sort of anticipate these types of expenditures. So I think that they're doing the prudent thing, which is anticipating the types of fiscal constraints that they're going to be having years down the road. So I think it's smart that they're addressing it now. I just wish the federal government would follow suit.
Okay, folks, that was part 4 of my interview with financial advisor Chris Martens. In the next 10 years, I'm looking to put 1 million Americans on the road to the 0% tax bracket. If you would like some help implementing a balanced, comprehensive approach to tax-free retirement that shields you from the impact of higher taxes down the road, head on over to davemcknight.com and click on the Connect with an Advisor button. I'm happy to refer you to an advisor in the PowerZero network that's been trained, vetted, and qualified personally by me. If you're a financial professional and want to learn how to become a certified PowerZero advisor, head over to PowerZero.com and opt into my free video series. And if you have any comments or questions, feel free to drop them into the comment section below. I'll respond to every single one of them personally. And don't forget to click like, subscribe, and the bell so you never miss a video. This is David McKnight. I look forward to seeing you on the next video.